Russia and China have affirmed their determination to support each other's core interests in a further sign of strengthening an alliance that is looked upon with growing suspicion in the West. Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin, before a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing, described bilateral ties as being at an unprecedented high. During his meeting with Chinese Premier Li Qiang, the Russian Prime Minister noted that unity makes it possible to move mountains. Several economic agreements were signed during the visit. Trade between the two nations reached a record $190 billion last year, and it has already reached $70 billion so far this year. Mr. Mishustin is the highest-ranking Russian official to visit the Chinese capital since last year's invasion of Ukraine. His trip also comes after both countries criticized the G7's joint statement, which called China and Russia out on a host of issues. For more, CNA's Lo Minmin joins us. She's live in Shanghai. Minmin, the Russian Prime Minister has now met with the Chinese President Xi Jinping. What do we know about their meeting?
Well, this meeting is largely painted by Chinese state-linked media as a routine visit, as a follow-up to that Moscow summit during which President Xi Jinping met with President Putin to sign an agreement to bring their ties to a new era of cooperation. Now, the two countries are looking to increase bilateral trade to beyond $200 billion this year, and that is something that is highly achievable, given that bilateral trade has already increased by 40% year on year just in this first quarter alone. Now, Russia has many things that China wants, including energy, oil, as well as agricultural products. Energy shipments are projected to increase 40% this year. On the other hand, Russia also wants something from China, and that's cash. Increasingly, two-thirds of their trade are now being done in domestic currencies, something that would help internationalize the Chinese yuan. That's something that both Russia and China wants to reduce their dependence on US dollars. Chinese President Xi Jinping has said that the two countries are going to firmly support each other in their core interests. They're going to deepen bilateral trade and investment to create a more open regional Eurasian market to stabilize supply chains.
Well, Minmin, the West views growing ties between Moscow and Beijing with dismay, for want of a better word. But this visit is just adding to those concerns, isn't it?
That's right, and China is well aware of how this meeting could be viewed by the West. They're well aware that it could be viewed as China perhaps condoning Russia's actions in Ukraine by continuing to do business with Russia. But the Foreign Ministry has hit back at these accusations, saying that China has a right to conduct foreign relations with other countries without being interfered by any third party. They also said that their relations with Russia is not targeted at any third party. Now, Chinese state-linked media are even more explicit in saying that this doesn't mean that China is skewing towards Russia. When it comes to the war, China has, of course, always claimed to be the neutral party here, trying to promote peace talks between the two countries. When asked about whether China is concerned about potential sanctions it could face for cooperating closely with Russia, the Foreign Ministry says that they are opposed to unilateral sanctions that have no international legal basis or that are not authorized by the Security Council. But we know that China is one of the 5 members who have permanent veto power in the Security Council. Beijing also says it will take all necessary measures to protect the legitimate and lawful interests of Chinese companies. Now, this, along with the fact that G7 countries are increasingly uniting against both Russia and China, that's only going to push both China and Russia closer together as they try to counter what they see as a form of Western hegemony.
It certainly would appear that way. Minmin, thank you for that, but stay right where you are because we want to get your comments on a story that's very closely related.